Good morning. So I'm working my way through doing Imago Relationship Therapy in the space between. Last couple of weeks I looked at the preface, now I'm looking at the introduction. And they state quite boldly at the outset, we have a stealthy purpose in writing this book. We think a fundamental cultural shift is underway in how we look at the world, at our view of others, how we interact with them, what suffering is, why we suffer, and how to respond to it, and how to go beyond surviving to thriving. Our intention is to introduce this new worldview as a theoretical foundation of a couples therapy called Imago Relationship Therapy, and to show through the concreteness of a therapeutic process the relevance of this new perspective to how we live everyday life. And it's really the shift into quantum field theory, quantum physics. What does that mean for us? It's a theory, but how does it play out in actual life? So as I've said many times before, imago is a Latin word for image. And imago theory understands that as children, we form an image, albeit unconsciously, believe me, it's unconscious, but of the person who loves me, who takes care of me, who meets all my needs. This is the template we'll be drawn to as our intimate partner in adulthood. And because our caretakers weren't perfect, just as we're not perfect, inevitably that imprint has both positive and negative traits. So in the romantic love phase of a relationship, it's the positive qualities and traits that attract us. But inevitably, the negative traits are there as well, and couples end up in a second stage of the relationship called the power struggle. They go on to say the purpose of this book is to understand these patterns in all intimate relationships and to describe what can be done about them to help couples move from an unconscious relationship to another stage that we call a conscious partnership. So, if you're a bit of a doubting Thomas, which many of you are about imago theory, here's two questions for you. Those of you who are in a relationship, why are you with the person you're with? It's not a bad question. You know, most men will have met other women, most women will have met other men, so why the two of you? Anyway, here's the second question. Can you remember the first time you met your partner? Everybody I asked that question to can. I can't remember what I did yesterday, but I can remember 50 years ago when I met my partner. So what's going on? I think, I can't prove it, but I think unconsciously we recognize something that's familiar. And Harville and Helen's great insight is just that. We tend to be attracted romantically to someone who to some extent matches the imago, the imprint or image we already have in our heads of the person who loves me, who takes care of me, meets all my needs. All right, and then we'll look at the implications of that. But anyway, while their book, Doing Imago Relationship Therapy in the Space Between, focuses on couples therapy, they believe there are wider implications that, and they say, will be implied and referred to and appears as a vision and proposal in the conclusion of the book. So 500 pages down the line, they're going to say, well, this is good for couples therapy, but it has other implications. And I'm guessing that that's another book in the making. Anyway, their present concern is to present their perspective, and this notion of perspective is important because we all have one. And their perspective is that imago is a structured process that we think can encourage dialogue in the service of replacing an unconscious relationship with a conscious partnership and an individualistic culture with a relational civilization. And that's really where I think they're going, from an individualistic culture to a relational civilization. And the wider implications are referred to hint at ideas to encourage a more relational civilization as to opposed to the more individualistic civilization which is paramount today. So I'm going to give you a long quote here and see if you can follow this. So, as an intellectual system, imago theory is a new way of thinking about relationship itself. Okay? And propose that being in relationship is our primary reality. Or to put it another way, there's no being outside of relationship. We are not only relational creatures possessing relational interests and needs, we are our relationships. We are relating. It's our nature. You know, as they would say, we're born in relationship. Think about it. You're always in relationship. Your kids, your family, your friends, your partners, your workmates. We're born in relationship, we're wounded in relationship, we need to be healed in relationship. Anyway, he says, they go on. This perspective differentiates Imago theory from other psychological and therapeutic systems that place self with relational features as a primary reality. As we will discuss later, the self that has been the foundational construct of Western psychology and therapy was modeled after the separate and interchangeable atom in classical physics. Isn't that true? That we think of the self as the key. Yeah, we have relationships, and they're shifting it to no, the relationship is primary, the self is a part of that. So as a complement to the idea of a separate self, self as being in relationship as our primary reality is rooted in quantum cosmology about how the universe works. So that's the key, is they're shifting to say, if quantum theory is correct, then what does that mean for couples, obviously, but also in the wider context? The quantum field theory posits reality as a field of energy, information, and awareness in which everything is connected and interconnecting. We believe that looking at our world and at ourselves through the quantum lens has profound implications for revising our view of ourselves and how we need to interact with others, and also offers a process for doing it, deeply impacting how mental health practitioners conceive of and do our work. And so anyway, I'll keep going here. They spend a good bit of time on the notion of perspective, and I'll expand on that next week. But in the meantime, I encourage you, the reader or the listener, to reflect on your own perspective. We all have one, whether it's conscious or not. So what's your perspective of how the world works, what relationships are, all that? And they go on and say, in our opinion as therapists, it's extremely important that we know our perspective because we cannot not have one. And it's important that you know yours because you cannot not have one. You may or may not choose to join the Imago perspective, but it's important that you know you have one and are intentional in selecting it. So it makes a big difference whether, I'm going to fix you as an individual self and you as an individual self, or I'm going to focus on getting the two of you to make how you're relating is the key to a great relationship. And they go on, what all this means for us is that we want to acknowledge that Imago is a lens through which we look at couples and interact with them. And before we get into an overview of Imago theory and practice, we want to take a short detour to describe that Imago lens through which an Imago therapist looks at the client, couple, and the therapy process. We call it Imago meta theory, and I'll start there next week. But it's the lens that I want to look at couples with. And to be very honest, it's shifted my thinking from 30 years ago when I started to now. I really do think the fastest way forward for any couple is to really protect that space between. You cannot keep putting negativity in there because the negativity causes disconnect, and what you want to do is connect. You want to be in a relationship. Anyway, we'll start there next week. Okay, have a great week. And Kim Gosling, hello, I see that you're watching. You're a very patient lady. Have a great day. Cheers.